Like, you see guys like Canelo who get no credit, who started off as mainly a welterweight for maybe a couple fights, was dominant at junior middleweight, but has jumped, went as high as light heavyweight to beat a very good fighter. And he not only beat him, he stops him, knocks him out, and gets absolutely no credit.
Hello, Danger Zone Boxing Talk. It's your boy, BC Left Hook, Malachi Ben Yosef, coming to you with an edition of the Final Bell. I want to apologize for those of you who might have waited up last night. Once we realized how late it was when the card was over, and I got blessed with going to the virtual Golden Boy Roundtable. Once again, shout out to Supreme Boxing and Anthony Stacks for getting me that invite and getting to be part of that roundtable. But today we got a special guest, a trainer out of the UK, avid boxing fan as well, creator of the pad ball, Mike Mary. And Mike, you want to tell everybody just about what you've been doing, what you've done around boxing, where they could follow you on social media, and any other information you want to give them.
I started boxing. It's a long story, but I started boxing in 1966. I went to America for about 10 years, from 1973 to 1983. Worked in the Bahamas. We had a permanent fight camp, fitness center out there on Paradise Island, the Bahamas, and just been in and out of boxing. Been a sparring partner for many all-time greats. Been in and out of boxing now for 50 odd years. I can't think of how much it is, but it's a long time.
Understood. And again, you've been around fighting for a while, and you've come up with a new type of pad. I'm gonna put a picture up of it. It's called the pad ball. I believe this is you working with the fighter, the undefeated 10-0 prospect, Ollie Pattison. Working with him. What made you want to come up with the pad ball?
Well, that's not me. That's Ollie's dad, who's his other trainer.
Okay.
But
okay.
The reason I come up with the pad ball is we wanted something that was a bit different to pads, because if you've got the fighter in front of you, they've got to react to your instructions. And I wanted something that I could move around the ring and the fighter in front of me could just react to, throw any combination, anything you wanted to. Because on this, you can throw, can you see it? You can throw straight shots, you can throw hooks, and you can throw underneath, you can throw the uppercuts. So you don't have to wait for me to change the position of the pad all the time. So I can move it around. It's great for getting your distance, your range, your timing, all of that stuff. There have been versions of this used over the years, but one of the reasons I did it was because I had this young lady, we were working together, and she hated the pads. She just couldn't get she just couldn't figure it out at all. She couldn't get combinations going, nothing. And in the end, what I did was I stuck two pads together with duct tape, and I said, right, you've got a target in front of you. Hit this. Because she was great in sparring, she was great at every other aspect of boxing. But when I put this in front of her, she loved it. And she really came on. She was really getting her distance, her range, her timing. And if anybody wants to contact me, there's loads of different aspects of the pad ball, to put into your training and to learn and stuff. So this is the reason I did it, because I was fed up with just pads. I wanted something else, something that would make that fighter in front of me work. Really use his footwork and stuff. It's not just but, and then step over to the side. I mean, for me, that just gets really boring. But I just wanted something I could move around the ring like a little bit of a virtual sparring partner.
Okay, understood. What is some of the feedback some of the fighters have given you that's used it?
Well, I've used it mostly with Ollie, who's, like I say, 10-0 as super middleweight. And what he finds with it, especially before he's going to a sparring session, or he's, before he actually goes in and does some really hard work, what we're doing with it is he's finding his range, his timing, his distance, because he'll come in on me and I'll step back, and he has to use his footwork, to come in and, to find his range, to find his timing, to find his distance. And I'm not just going to stay there. He'll do a couple of shots and I'll move back. So he's really got to work. So it's one hell of a workout for him. He'd rather do that than go for for maybe a 10-mile run, or just work out on the bag. This is something he really has to work on all the time.
Okay. And now, as you stated, you are working with Ollie, and he is 10-0, a highly thought of prospect, especially in the UK circle. When do you know when we might see him in the ring next?
Yes, it's all up in the air when he can get dates. I mean, I don't know if you know, but the British Boxing Board of Control have only recently allowed sparring again. And Ollie just had his first sparring session, and I forget the guy's name now. He's a Welsh cruiserweight. So I don't know what you probably know better than me the situation in the States and stuff, but it's only been about 3 weeks here that the British Boxing Board of Control have allowed sparring again. So I want him to really, you know, to get back into the groove. He's been working on his fitness and he's been working on his strength and conditioning and he's super fit, but you he's not match fit. So we need that sparring. So as soon as things start to come up and as soon as we know, what's out there and things start to get a little bit back into the normal run of things, we'll be able to find out which direction we're going to. And we don't even know if he's going to be fighting at super middle or light heavy, because he can make both weights quite easily. And like I say, he's very strong. So we need that sparring to gauge just where he is.
Understood. Now, do you have any precautions in mind for when it does come time to spar?
Well, the precautions are that the gym is empty and all we have in there is maybe one or two trainers, myself, Ollie's dad, Ollie, the sparring partner, and a couple of his guys. But we all wear masks. We make sure the gym is sanitized every couple of days. I've got a friend who goes in there and sanitizes the gym up in London, and that's all we can do, because somehow we have to, we can take as much precautions as we like, but we can't we can't have the boxers in there with masks on, can we? So we're doing what we can. Like I say, we're doing everything we can, and we'll follow the British Boxing Board of Control guidelines as much as possible.
Okay. Just one more question about that. Are you going to try to stick with local sparring partners? Because like some of the things I thought about, it's kind of risky to bring a guy in that you may not know. But then even then, with local guys, you may not know what they've been if they've been following the protocols.
So this guy came in, and I believe he came. Funny enough, I haven't been able to get hold of Ollie the last couple of days, but this guy came in, and like I say, he's Welsh cruiserweight champion, and we don't know what precautions he's taking. But then, you know, we don't know. Somebody could say something to us, but not actually follow that line. So it's a risky business, but you just have to do what you can.
Okay. Outside of being a trainer, you're also an avid pugilism fan. You're one of the trainers that actually, because I have met some trainers that don't actually watch boxing; they just train their fighters. But you watch boxing. I believe you're one of the admins over at Ring IQ as well. So I wanted to bring you on and talk some boxing, particularly in the UK. One of the big fights that got announced earlier this last month was Ryan Garcia and Luke Cambell, and I do believe Ryan has accepted the fight. I think they're getting ready to get inter negotiations. Now, Ryan is 20-0, and Luke Cambell is 20-3. Ryan's last fight is a guy they brought up from super featherweight. He did what he was supposed to, knocked him out. Luke Cambell put up a good showing against Lomachenko. What do you think of this fight, and who do you have winning it, Mike?
The one thing I was looking at this the other day, and the one thing that kind of worries me a bit is I think it's about 10 months, isn't it, since Luke fought Lomachenko. And I don't like fighters to have these periods of inactivity. Yes, you can get all the great sparring. I believe he's sparring with Josh Taylor, or was sparring with Josh Taylor. And I just don't like him to be out of the ring that long, because I think it just takes an edge off you. All right. But one thing I think is paramount in this fight is Luke has to impose that southpaw stance on Ryan Garcia. right? He has to achieve lead foot dominance. That, for those who don't know, that means getting your lead foot outside Ryan Garcia's. So, because Ryan Garcia likes to come in, throw those jabs, and he loves to do that lead hook, loves to get it in there. But if Cambell gets his foot outside, he's slightly off the line there, and he doesn't allow Ryan Garcia to come in. And he must control the distance between the two fighters. He must do that, because you know what Ryan Garcia loves to do? He likes to throw a few shots and then step in and bam. And that's the way, that's the way he attacks, and that's the way, that forward momentum is how he gets his power into his shots. So look at Luke Cambell versus Lomachenko, and you'll see at the beginning of the fight, Luke Cambell comes out, gets in the middle of the ring, starts to control everything, and that's the way he's got to be with Ryan Garcia. He cannot let Ryan Garcia just boom straight in, come in behind that jab, and that's how Ryan Garcia gets that knockout power. I don't know if you'd agree with me or not.
Oh, absolutely. For me, I love this fight for both fighters. Luke had a great showing against Lomachenko, but he came up short. And that was what I believe his third attempt at a world title. I think this is a win that he has to have, but I think it's a win that Ryan Garcia has to have. I've been on record stating that I think Ryan sometimes would rather be a Instagram model than an actual boxer. He'd like to punch on punching bags, and he's going to need a whole lot more than just that left hook to beat Luke Cambell. He's going to have to, like my partner Twine said, go deep in his bag for this one. I am leaning towards Ryan, but it might be just because I'm still want to believe that he's the guy that we were hoping when he came out of the Olympic, that Olympic stuff. So moving on from that, there was another fight announced, a rematch of a fight between Katie Taylor and Persoon. A lot of people thought Taylor lost the first fight. I thought she did personally. I was kind of upset when they didn't immediately announce the rematch because I thought, oh, girl deserved it. She should have got the immediate rematch. Things are what they are. The Serrano fight fell through for whatever reason, depending on what side you want to believe on that. But I'm glad the rematch is happening. What did you think about the first fight? Who did you have winning? And what do you think about the rematch, Mike?
Funny enough, I never saw the fight at the time. I fell asleep because I think it was on here about 2:00 in the morning, and I fell asleep. And it was a fight, I have to be honest, I didn't watch, right? And it was only when you talked to me about this podcast that I thought I'd go and watch it. And what a fantastic fight. I would say that's the best women's fight of all time. It's got to be, isn't it? What would you say?
It's one of them. I'd have to sit down and really go through all of them all time, but it was an excellent fight. Non-stop action.
When Persoon came out, and like I said, I only watched it a few days ago, I thought she hasn't got the skills. Yeah, she's strong and stuff, and first round, Katie Taylor, she's got all those silky skills, and I thought, that's it. That's the way the fight's going to go. She's going to wear Persoon down, and she's going to win on points, or she's going to stop Persoon. But then Persoon just went into another level, and I have to admire that woman's toughness. She is so tough. I mean, you'd have to get a machine gun in there, and I don't think that would have stopped her. She just kept coming forward, and Katie Taylor has never had that before. Never had somebody who's so strong, so aggressive, and she looked really lost in there. I don't know what you think. I thought she just looked really lost, and all the skills went out the window.
Exactly, I agree 100%.
But one thing I saw in that fight was that Persoon was using, that footwork that Jeff Horn does, and what flummoxed Manny Pacquiao so much. He throws a jab out of an orthodox stance, and then as he throws the right hand, he brings that right foot forward, right? So he's constantly shifting with his punches, and that's what Persoon was doing. And Katie Taylor had no answer to that. Now, if you want to counteract that, you go and do what Bud did. Remember Bud and Horn? You do what Bud did, right? Bud was at sea for the first couple of rounds because you've got this monster coming at you, and there's no way of just taking a little step back and trying to counter him and stuff like this because he's coming at you the whole time. And if you back up in straight lines, Jeff Horn's going to nail you. And the same with Katie Taylor and Persoon. What you do is you take a little step back and you pivot out, and then you catch her. And the other thing Katie Taylor's got to do is she's got to tie up Persoon. She can't let her just maraud forward. She has to, like I say, has to step back, take a little step off to the side and catch her, and then move out like Bud was doing with Horn, because Bud made an adjustment after the first 3 rounds, and that's what she needs to do. And the other thing which I was thinking the other day, which would be great when Persoon's going to come marauding forward, because she's going to do that style again, the Bernard Hopkins right hand. You drop down and you put all your weight forward and throw the right hand with your head down and crack, because that's a great way. Someone's marauding forward, they're not going to expect that. It's just a little step out to the side and crack, you catch them. And that's what I think Katie Taylor should do. But she's going to have to work so hard on that strength and conditioning, because she needs to be able to tie up Persoon. And Persoon is a strong woman. You wouldn't want to meet her down an alley in a dark night. Yeah, so that's my take on it. I think it's going to be a great fight, but Katie Taylor has to work on all those things that I said, because that's how Persoon was catching her, because she was backing up in straight lines. Persoon is marauding forward, bop, 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 bop. And if you just go backwards, all you're doing is you're just going to catch those punches. You need to like step off, pivot round, catch her straight, or like I say, the Bernard Hopkins straight right hander. That's it, But it's easier said than done. But it's going to be a great fight, I think.
I agree. I think it's going to be excellent again. Now, as you was talking about how that Katie can't let her be so rough in the clinch. I've noticed a lot of the fighters, particularly from Europe and the UK, that adding that element coming out of the amateur ranks, because I think that international amateurs, is a little more cleaner. They keep it more clean. I think that's something they all have to learn, and they have to go through a fight like this in order to learn that. I think Lomachenko, he got it early in his second fight with Salido. He learned that, hey, this is what pro boxing is inside the clinch. It's completely different. Do you think that she's worked on? I know you think how could she work on that? Like, what are some of the things she could be doing to get better at being a little more? Does she just have to be a little more mean or willing to be dirty?
All right, I've got a magic wand, right? I'm going to wave it. You know what I do? I get Bernard Hopkins in, right? Because Andre Ward went to Bernard Hopkins's camp. I don't know if you know that. You're aware of that. He went there and he learned this. With Virgil Hunter said to him, go and learn from a master. So he went to some of Bernard Hopkins' camps, right? I don't know if it's ever been mentioned, but I know this for sure, right? So he learned how all that rough stuff, right? So you've got to learn it. It's not taught in the UK gyms, right? When I went out to the States, it was one of the prerequisites. It's one of the things you had to learn. You had to learn to tie up. You had to learn to control. And I know a lot of boxing fans will go, oh, it's hugging, it's holding on, it's cowardly. No, it isn't. It's a skill. Look at Bernard Hopkins. Look at Andre Ward. Look how good they were. So I would say go and get Bernard Hopkins, pick Virgil Hunter's brains, but learn how to do it. It's a skill, and it's not taught in the UK gyms. It's a very North American thing. And like I see, Lomachenko had to learn. If Lomachenko had that fight with Salido now, right, completely different. He would rough. Doesn't matter if Salido came in at 300 pounds, he would rough Salido up, and that would be it. Because Lomachenko learned, and it was a great learning curve. What do you think about this Lomachenko-Salido fight? I mean, I know lots of fans will go on and on about the loss and stuff, but I don't know. What do you think, mate?
The loss doesn't, because I don't look at wins, losses the same way as everyone else. It wasn't his second fight. It's still there. You can't erase it. It happened. It is what it is. What he does going forward means a lot more to me than him losing. I mean, speaking of Bernard Hopkins, I believe, did he lose his debut or his second fight as a professional? Look what he went on to be. So that for me is not a defining thing, but you can't erase it either. I'm not one of the people that want to throw Lomachenko in the all-time great status right now. In my opinion, he's still got a lot left. If Leonarez is the best fighter currently on his resume, no, I mean, Rigondeaux, but he was so much bigger than Rigondeaux. Nicholas Walters, well, where's the Axeman been? So Leonarez still is, what is he, a 2-division world champion? So that is what it is, man. And if that's the best guy on his resume, he needs a little bit more for me to be in the all-time great category. And he got a monster he got to deal with, a young bull that is ready to go. Not afraid of him one bit. One of the things we were going to get into Lomachenko, but I'm glad you asked. One of the things with Lomachenko, I think that beats people is a beat before they enter the ring. And the other thing that beats them is they get mesmerized by the movement. It's like they get mesmerized. And I don't think that Teofimo, I don't know, I was spoken before this, but Teofimo is scared of him, or he's going to get mesmerized by that movement. So I do believe this is a very dangerous fight for Lomachenko. But for the Salido fight, it is what it is. Salido showed up big. He roughed him up. He showed Lomachenko this is what the pros can be. If you fight a fighter like me, I'm willing to not only rough you up in the clinch, I'm willing to get dirty with you. And I think that later on we saw Lomachenko get dirty too. Like he punched Rigondeaux after the bell. That was something that I think came with him learning in the pro game. This is what the pro game is.
Yeah. The trouble with the amateurs is it's all, I love it, but it's all so respectful. It's all, you do all your bows and stuff. And, if Salido had come out with any of those tactics, they would have stopped it immediately. And it takes a long time to relearn stuff and realize that these guys they're coming in to take your head off, right?
Yeah.
There's no protection there at all. These guys will hurt you. These guys will punch you low. They'll punch you in the balls. They're out there to feed their families. They're out there to make a living, and they're out there to survive. But like I say, Lomachenko learned early, and I think it stood him in good stead. But the one thing with Lomachenko, I think this fight coming up with Lopez is going to be a really tough fight for him, and you are going to get a monster in there because Lopez, whatever people say about him, he hits hard. He hits really hard, and he's got that confidence that comes from being a cocky young man, and I don't see anything wrong in that. But no. I'm looking forward to this fight. It's going to be a good one.
He's got outstanding quick twitch muscles too. He's very athletic, and he's a better boxer than a lot of people give him credit for. A lot of people are out, well, Lomachenko's just going to school him, and he's a little bit better than that. If you go and you really watch, he does catch and shoot. When he has to box, he boxes. But when you're fighting guys that you can get out of there, a lot of times you're just like, I'm going to get him out of there. And so moving on, we're going to talk about another fight that made headlines, an announcement. Well, it was an offer. We heard that Callum Smith had been offered $5 million to face Canelo September 12th. Nothing has been made official. My first question is, should Cambell, because I believe Cambell had actually asked for $6 million. They came back with $5 million. Should he even take the fight for $5 million? Personally, I think he should. But I want to get your opinion on that. And who are you going to take? But how could Callum win the fight as well?
Right. I'll answer the question about the money. Now, I was looking through, for this podcast, I was looking through various reports and stuff. And some reports say he's been offered $4 million. Some say $5 million. Some say he's pushing for $5 million. Or he's pushing for $6 million. I don't know the exact figures, but that money is life-changing money. And in this climate, with what we discussed earlier, the crowd's not being there, you're not having the gate money and stuff. I think you grab it. You grab it with both hands, don't you?
I believe you do, because as you said, that is life-changing money. If he passes up this opportunity to fight Canelo could easily move on to another opponent. And to be honest, a lot of people think Smith lost to what was it, John Ryder. So if you got to take that rematch, you take a big risk of losing to John and not getting the Canelo money. So I take the Canelo money. I don't think he wins. I think Canelo would end the fight, most particularly in a body shot at some point. I think he catch him with one. Canelo's boxing skills are vastly underrated amongst a lot of his haters. They just can't stand him. Once again, I'm going to say it again. Every close fight is not a robbery. And we get that every time there's a close fight, it was a robbery. And if you, I can't believe anyone actually believes the Kovalev fight was rigged, because the way he finished him in that fight was, you don't get paid enough to get hit like that.
Well, all those people who say it's rigged, well, come along to my boxing gym and you can even wear headgear and I'll hit you like that. And if you're still standing, then you can tell me it's rigged. It's not rigged. I don't get into all that. That's just, that's just craziness. I'm not going to even bother with that. Now, how does Callum Smith win? Have you followed much of Callum Smith?
Yeah, he's a good fighter. Yeah. Long, lengthy, got good power.
Yeah. Well, when he turned pro, all the UK coaches and everybody on the side of the water said, myself included, this is going to be a top prospect. Mm-hmm. And he could well go on to be an elite fighter. Now, he beat Rocky Fielding. Do you remember that fight? He knocked Rocky Fielding out?
Yes.
And he was brilliant that night. He was electric and absolutely punch perfect. Then the next 6 fights, they were really weird because it didn't seem like the same fighter. And he fought that kickboxer, Nicky Holtzen, I think his name is, in the World Super Series.
Okay.
Holz, whatever it is, Zen, Holtzen. And he looked like he'd gone way back. He wasn't the same fighter. But I read an interview recently that he said that he had to fight to orders. The orders were just win the fight, don't pick up any injuries, just beat him. And that's what he did. So I thought, all right, he's gone off the boil a little bit. And then we saw him against George Groves. And that was back to the old Callum.
Yeah.
George Groves, whatever people say about him, very tricky opponent. That jab, putting his hand here and throwing that jab from a low position, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to time him. He's got good defense when he's on song, but Callum wore him down, and I think it was the 7th round knocked him out.
Yeah.
So I thought, great, Callum Smith back, and then we saw him against Hassan and Dam, and it was just a stay busy fight. But again, beautiful technique, some great left hooks, and that right hand that finished it was perfect. Mm-hmm. Great. So we come up against John Ryder, and I think he lost the fight. He had no idea on how to cope with Ryder. Ryder was not letting him get his range, his distance, his timing. He was slipping the jabs. He was going low, letting them go over his head, and then he was just bursting forward. And I don't know if you the fight when Callum Smith was going back in the high guard, he got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And normally you go back like that and he'd step off. But against Ryder, and again, if you look at Callum Smith, just put the 2 fights together. Against George Groves, his body was fluid, his punches were fluid, he was moving well. And against Ryder, it just seemed like it was all stiff. He just couldn't get anything going. And maybe he's one of those guys who just needs those big fights. And maybe when he thought about John Ryder, and I think John Ryder put in a fantastic performance, but he's been beaten by Nick Blackwell, he's been beaten by Billy Joe Saunders, and I think maybe Callum didn't take it seriously enough. And for whatever reason, he seems like some fights he just can't get up. He's just not the same person. But I think against Canelo, it might be a different story. I think it's going to take the same sort of path as Canelo versus Kovalev, because you've got that length, you've got, Kovalev's got that great jab and stuff. Mind you, I think Kovalev faded, it was a faded fighter when he fought Canelo. You've got Canelo coming forward, blocking everything, catching some punches, and looking to throw off his own punches. But I think if Callum Smith, like I say, keeps it long, keeps it at that distance, and just measures it up for that right hand, I think you're going to see a very good fighter. Sorry, a very good fight on that night. But what Callum Smith turns up, if it's the Callum Smith who's not on it, then Canelo's going to stop him. All right. But if it's Callum Smith who's on it, and like I say, throws out that jab, throws out those beautiful left hooks, lines it up with the right hand, moves, got his defense on point, then I think you're going to see a great fight. Who wins? I still think it's Canelo. I think it's going to be the body shot, but you don't know. But for me, it's which Callum Smith turns up that night.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to be very, very interested in the early rounds. I want to see if Canelo gets the timing on that right hand and begins to counter it every time. And like he took away Kovalev's best punch. Kovalev he did not want to throw the right hand because he was going to get countered. He knew it.
Yeah.
And if Canelo gets that early enough, I just think that he you might be right. It might even go into the later rounds with Callum up because of more activity. But Canelo at some point is just going to catch him and put him out. But I do believe he should take the money to fight because when are you going to get that much money again? And if you pass up on Canelo now, you may not get him later. So another fight that has been announced out of the UK is a big fight coming 11/4 of 2020, which is Joyce versus Dubois. Both going to be, I believe, fighting soon. Joyce fights today on the ESPN Plus card at 2 p.m. So they'll both have to get through their next opponents. Now, believing that Joyce does win today and Dubois beats the opponent that he's going to be fighting with next. What do you think of that fight, and how do you see that fight going?
Just one thing about Joyce's fight. Is it today he fights, Joe Joyce?
Yeah, he fights today. It'll start at 2 o'clock on in the U.S. It'll be at 2 o'clock on ESPN Plus. I think it's on BT Sports in the UK.
Yeah, I'll probably watch a bit of it. But it's Wallish. Wallish has lost 3 out of his last 4 fights. So it is just a walkout. It should be just a walkover fight for Joe Joyce, just to stay busy fight. And I think maybe that's because they haven't been able to do the sparring and stuff. And Dubois' opponent, like I said, he hasn't got a good record either. So it's just stay busy fights, I think. But the main fight, I don't know. How do you see it going? The Joyce and Dubois.
I think Dubois wins. I think he's the better of the two prospects. I think he's technically better. I like his ceiling a little more. But I wouldn't be shocked because, to be honest, we don't know how good Daniel is either. Because who's he fought for me to really gauge and say, hey, this guy could be a top? Because I know a lot of the guys here in the United States, they do like him as a prospect and think he is. I know the other night I heard, I believe 2K to God and Bo Bland from Three Kings Boxing, they were discussing Daniel, and I think that they believe that I think they were discussing like UK prospects versus United States prospects, and they believed that the United States overall would be favored, but one of the only divisions they thought the UK would be favored when it came to prospect versus prospect was because of Daniel. And I agree so far. Everything I've seen technically looks good. He does got the power that you want, the size for this era, but who's he beat at the end of the day? So I really want to see him fight Joyce. I do believe he'll beat Joyce, but you never know. I mean, look at no disrespect, but look at David Price.
Yeah. I think Daniel's a bit of a different prospect to David Price.
Yes.
Because technically he is really good, but and he's been boxing a long time. He's had a good long amateur background. So I think with Dubois, you've got a fighter. You've got heavyweight. He's probably the strongest heavyweight out there. God knows, I think he was not reeling off something like 500, 600 press ups a day, and he's got an engine on him, Dubois. And like I say, he looks and he comes across as the strongest heavyweight out there. Then you've got Joe Joyce, and I think from what I've seen of Joe for over many years, he's only got one way of fighting. He'll just keep coming forward. And I don't think that's going to work against Daniel, because I think Daniel's just going to time him. I'd like to see Joe just step off a little bit. But he's, you've seen all his fights. He just keeps coming forward, and that's his thing. He just keeps putting on this relentless pressure the whole time. And he's got a fantastic engine, fantastic stamina. But I don't think that's going to work against Daniel, because it's going to come down to who's got the strongest, the hardest punch. And I think Daniel's got a harder punch than Joe. And I think he's going to get floored. But maybe Joe's going to surprise me. Maybe he is going to step off a little bit and work on stuff instead of just coming forward and applying this pressure, because he just wears you down, Joe Joyce, and he just keeps wearing you down. And I don't think that's going to work against Daniel. I think Daniel's just going to he's going to walk onto a big right hand. They're going to have a little bit of a slugging match, walk onto a big right hand, and that's it. Good night. I think that's the end of it.
I think I agree with you there. Well, Mike, we're coming to the end of our show. Do you want to tell everybody once again where they can find out more information about the pad ball? Maybe give some, and tell us about your YouTube channel too before you go. I think it's Punch Perfect over there at YouTube, right?
Punch Perfect Boxing on YouTube. Anybody wants to know about the pad ball? We did have a website, but we ran into so many problems, and it just wasn't worth continuing with it. So we ditched the website. If anybody wants any more information about the pad ball, we've got Punch Perfect Boxing on YouTube and Punch Perfect Boxing on Facebook. If anybody wants to know about it, just give me a call and I can send the videos out of it being used and stuff. And that's the best way to get hold of me. But anybody wants to subscribe to the YouTube channel, you're very welcome. We're doing really well.
Awesome. Yeah, I love your YouTube channel. You give out great instructions. Once again, Mike, I want to thank you for coming on and talking with us. Yeah, you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna get ready for that fight card soon, and I'll be talking to you in your inbox. You have a great day, bro.
Oh, thanks, Malachi. Cheers, buddy. God bless.
Cheers. God bless, man.